Hello, and welcome to the Family Histories Podcast, the show for and about those of us who are sat quietly in libraries, archives, and spare rooms all around the world, tirelessly piecing together our collective social and family history. My name is Andrew Martin, I'm a family historian, and I'll be your host. In this episode, the Testifier, we'll be hearing about a formerly enslaved man who testifies in the US Senate, and then we'll be trying to find out the origins and fate of his wife in South Carolina. So, put down that old photograph, grab a cuppa, and let's meet our guest. Today, I'm joined by a guest whose genealogy research spans decades, including one with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where she became a family search expert. She has used her skills to deliver training, publish ebooks, and establish family history research communities on social media. So, before she gets bored waiting and heads off to set up another community somewhere, it's time to meet my guest. It's Robin R. Foster. Hello, Robin. Welcome to the Family Histories Podcast.
Hello. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, we always start with the same question, which is, how did you get interested in researching your family history?
Well, that goes back to when I was a child.
Okay.
I used to question my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, and my aunts when they were reminiscing about the past. I always waited.
You were one of those children.
Yeah, I was. And I didn't know what I was doing, but it was just interesting. I'd wait until their conversation was over. Then I would ask the details.
Okay.
And I did this throughout the time I was growing up. And I got a lot of stories that way that I would not have now.
Wow. Were you writing these down or recording them on cassette or something like that?
No, I would remember everything. Because every time we got together, I would ask a detail that I was thinking about that they didn't mention. So it was always at the top of my mind.
Wow.
And I never thought to write them down until I started officially.
So when you started to actually research your family history using records, were you finding that their memories and their reminiscence to be accurate, or were there things that were kind of maybe slightly embroidered at all?
You know, I'm lucky. Everything that I was told, I found in the record, and I could find records because of what they told me.
That is very lucky.
That's lucky, or blessed.
Yes, yeah. So what sort of records did you start researching with?
Well, I started with the census for a long time because I was really fascinated with finding the families. You know, I'd be with one family and I'd look next door. Oh, there's more family. And so I did that for a lot of the years before I went on to another record. I went on from there to like death records because the death records would give me the mother and father, and then I'd go back and then find more.
Yeah. It's very lucky to have the neighbors who are also relatives.
Yes.
I have quite a lot of that in my tree.
And, you know, the way that I have my records, I keep looking at them back. I keep back because you find more cousins, you know, and families. And it's just wonderful.
Did you find that you had many photographs or documents within the family before you went off and started researching?
No, I had just the basics. I didn't have, you know, I didn't have a picture of my great-grandfather.
Oh, okay.
But what I did was after I started finding the people on the census, then I would look up on like the directories.
Yeah.
And then I would call those people. They were living still.
Oh, you meant phone directories?
Yes. And then some of them had pictures. And then I would trade my research for the pictures. They would give me pictures.
That's a good deal. So how did you kind of learn to research? Because it can be quite tough and quite daunting when you're starting out to think, how do I find these things? And then once I've got this information, how do I record this and make it make sense in my notes?
Well, luckily, I became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints That's when I started keeping the pedigree charts and the family group records. That was in 1985. And so I was a little bit spoiled, I would say.
Yeah.
I had someone that would show me the records, what to do with them, where to store them, and all that. And so I didn't go through what people go through when they start out on their own.
That is a wonderful opportunity. But yeah, I'm very envious. I didn't have anyone to show me how to do research, but I did find a couple of books, and I knew I had to have a lot of notepads and pencils because my research kind of spans you need to visit a record office and you can now do it online. So I'm kind of spanning that.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe your research was pre-online stuff.
Well, it was all offline because we weren't online back then when I started. But we got online, and that's when I started using Family Search. It was the old Family Search. It was not like now.
No, it has evolved quite a bit.
Yeah.
I used Family Search the other day, and I would say probably fairly, Family Search is probably the third source that I use for researching because I have subscriptions with the likes of, say, Ancestry and Find My Past. Mm-hmm. And obviously Family Search is free, but
yes.
There are some things that are on Family Search but that aren't on the other sites.
Yeah, it goes like that. The sites all have different records. Like I use Ancestry and Family Search, and I can usually find what I want between those two.
Yeah, I was looking for some church records and some death records in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yeah.
And the other sites just didn't have this. And I found them there with the images, the scans of the registers right there on Family Search. And I was able to see all the details, and it was wonderful.
That's good.
So how do you share your research with your family?
I put everything online, like Ancestry and Family Search, and they can go and get it right from there. There's stories on Family Search where you can save recordings and save stories. And always I put sources.
Good. Not enough people put sources on their trees.
Yeah, I don't put anything unless there's a source.
Glad to hear it. And I hope many listeners to this episode are also doing that, or will at least consider doing that.
The source is very important. It saves you a lot of time because you always have to go back to the record again.
Oh, absolutely. So you've progressed along in your research and you've kind of set up Genealogy Just Ask, mm-hmm. which you describe as a free genealogy research assistance service.
Yeah.
What made you want to offer that?
Well, I volunteer for Family Search from 2007 to 2014. And instead of extending that, I said, I want to do this the rest of my life.
Yep.
So we started Genealogy Just Ask, and we started as one group. That group has got 64,000 people.
Wow.
But we wanted to cover all the world, all the areas. So we've got other countries. And in the United States, we've got every state listed. So that keeps me very busy.
I bet. 64,000 people will.
Yeah, but the good thing is they help each other. I don't do the helping.
Okay, that is a community then.
It's really good. It's a good community.
Wow. So what made you also to want to become a professional researcher?
It's funny, when I was doing my genealogy, like when I go to the Family History Center, when they were Family History Centers and now they're Family Search Centers,
yep.
Other people would be there. It didn't matter what color they were. They all wanted me to help them. And so now it's gotten to the point wherever I go, if I'm online, I'm offline, I'm helping people. I just do that 24 hours a day almost because I don't sleep very much.
Not surprised.
But it's really fun. And I can never tire of it.
That is just as well.
Yeah. And, with the technology is something else. We have had those groups. But this year, I started a Substack of Genealogy Just Ask. And there are lots of blogs I share over there.
Yeah.
And if you go over to Substack, go to Genealogy Just Ask _Robin, and you'll find those articles there.
Well, we'll definitely put a link to those listeners can go and read those. So in your work with Genealogy Just Ask and as a professional genealogist, have you seen a kind of evolution of the genealogy topics that people are wanting to learn about?
Well, I know that there are other topics, but the ones I hone in on is everybody needs to know when they ask a question, they need to know where they're researching. And they need to know the time period. And with that, I give them the research wiki, where their ancestors are on the research wiki. For example, somebody said, I'm looking for my dad in Texas. Well, you can't give somebody resources as good as if they give you the county. So I say to them, tell me what county you're searching. And they tell me the county, and I look it up and I give them, whatever county, I give it to them, and then they're gone. They can do the research themselves because it's a whole page of resources.
Yeah. So you're pointing people into the right direction so that they can go through that joy of doing that bit of research themselves.
Yeah. But they talk about things like finding the mothers. You can't find the mothers after a certain point because you didn't know the maiden name.
Yeah.
And usually if they had a death certificate, that's one way of finding the maiden name, because you look and see the mother and the father is listed on the death certificate.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be very hard to trace the birth name and the family name of a woman the further you go back in history because, well, the patriarchy, and therefore in the records, the women's birth name, their family name just isn't recorded because they, as in the men who were recording this stuff, just didn't really feel that it was that important.
Yeah. And you see a lot, this is another thing you see a lot of now. It's really, really neat. For enslavement, our people are looking for their people. And when they can't find them, you know what happens? So a lot of times in my groups, you get the white person that helps because they owned their family.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. And they become close.
Yeah, I guess there is that with Facebook groups and online communities.
Yeah, and it's good. It really is good. That's one of the best things that I see. And I started writing my books because I've got a lot of people that need, you know how you answer the same question over and over?
Yes.
I decided to write a book. I've got one on formerly enslaved ancestors. My latest one is on researching English roots.
Okay, yeah.
It starts out, my best genealogy tips, they start like that. Then they go with whatever topic. And the latest one is researching your English root. And I had someone that actually got the book and went to England. That was really exciting.
Yeah, armed with your book.
Yeah.
Nice. So have you taken your research into DNA at all?
Yes, just my own. I don't talk about it with other people because I'm not a DNA expert. But for my own research, I get lots of people that are related to me because my family tree is on the chart. Like, for example, 23andMe. I get a lot of people, so I have a lot of people to go through. But one that I found, I really wish he would answer. He doesn't answer.
Don't you just hate it?
Yeah, he is related to my grandfather. He is like my great-grandfather, and I would know who his mother is if he would just answer me.
I mean, don't lose hope because
No.
I had a reply from, I wouldn't say a close match, but it was reasonably close and it was a curious match as well. And I had a reply after about 5 years. They replied. So, oh, thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
So one day, my fingers are crossed for you.
Thank you.
And one last question for you, Robin. What does genealogy mean to you?
It's a spiritual to me. We're putting back our ancestors. We're putting them back together.
Yeah.
That is the greatest thing that we could do.
Every family tree has a fascinating story just waiting to be found. You've just got to get beyond those basic names, places, and dates to find it. With this in mind, it's now time for my guest to choose one of their most fascinating relatives and then tell their life story. Okay, Robin, who are you going to introduce us to?
His name is Beverley Vance.
Okay.
I didn't even know his name when I started. He's from Abbeville County, South Carolina.
Okay. So if you didn't know his name, how did you begin researching Beverley?
I got my mother to tell me about her family. She told me about Emery, her father, and Otis, her mother. Then she moved to telling me about Lafayette. He was a Reverend Lafayette Vance. And I've got so much on him. There's a Palmetto Leader paper. It's an African-American paper, and he's all in there. I think I found more than 47 articles with him.
Okay.
But we wanted to know his father's and mother's name, but we really weren't tuned into that when I was looking for him.
Okay.
I was looking for Lafayette, is all I knew. And we found them on all the censuses up until the 1880.
Right.
And my mother was over one day, and I was doing the dishes, and we were on dial-up, waiting for things to load. But we were looking for her grandfather.
And this was Lafayette?
Yes.
Yep.
And he was born in 1861.
Okay.
And then we just started to look for Lafayette in 1880. And we were waiting for it to load. But I got to thinking, he's going to be with his family, who we haven't seen. And the page loaded. I saw his name. We looked at his name. And then we looked at his parents.
Okay.
And there's where I found Beverley Vance and his wife, Matilda Vance. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and that would have been quite a reveal as well. Knowing dial-up, it would have been quite slow to reveal.
Yeah, it was really slow. We were in the kitchen, and I was doing dishes and running over, waiting. It was a long time. We've come a long way with the internet.
But I remember those days fondly.
Well, lo and behold, it loaded, and we just looked. We were so happy. We cried with joy.
Wow. Had you been searching for a long time?
No, not at all. It was right, how you go in order from the 1920, back then it was 1920, the 1910 to the 1900.
Yeah.
Then all I put in was Lafayette Vance, and it came up to see that there was family, and he had his parents with him. You see, that's not too far from slavery.
No, that's all still fairly recent by that point.
And the next thing was the 1870. We wanted to find him. Now, that was a little bit tricky because they were listed with just the first name initialed and the last name initialed, all of them.
Wow.
So it was hard.
Yeah, I bet. I don't really know where I would start with that one.
It was really hard. I don't think we even did it that day. But from there, we got a hold of family, our living family, to see what they had.
Okay.
And, I didn't start thinking Beverley was just anything but a father and a farmer. But I found him in the Senate records where, he was a constable and he testified on how the Democrats had treated him. And there's so many records out on just the Senate record. There's one in 1868, and there's some after that.
Wow. Well, Beverley sounds like he's really in the thick of it because you're 3 years after the end of the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, with millions of enslaved people being free. And here he is testifying in the Senate.
But then also, I started looking at other people who had testified. And James Kincaid Vance, who owned Beverley, testified. There are people that testified for and against him.
Yeah.
And they did it for 2 consecutive periods. One was in 1868, and he was registered to vote. And I found that record.
Nice.
And he had a militia record from 1869. And all of these records helped me get back to before he was a free person.
Okay.
In one of the Senate records, he told the senator that he didn't always live in Abbeville County, South Carolina.
Right.
He had been given to James Kincaid Vance by the father of James Kincaid Vance. And he lived in Lawrence County, South Carolina. And I'm not remembering when, but Samuel Vance was the previous owner to James Kincaid Vance.
Okay.
And James Kincaid Vance was a son of Samuel Vance, and Samuel Vance was also the father of Beverley.
Oh, I was suspecting you would end up by saying that.
Yeah.
So where have you been finding all of these records?
This hasn't been all online.
Okay.
We moved to, just so everyone will know, Abbeville became Greenwood County. And we lived in Greenwood County a few years. I was the family history director, but I also worked at the library. And that was a wonderful thing I did. I saw the people come in, and I would question them. There was a person that worked there that helped me form a group that would clean the cemetery where I thought Beverley was buried. I've not found where he's buried yet. We all went out there, and it was good. We put all the names on Find a Grave. And I get a lot of information from people that email me, and they want to know how to find the records for their loved one.
Okay.
I went to Cokesbury, where the family was on the census. It was just surreal. The person that worked in the library went out and took names in another cemetery in the Cokesbury. And that was where my family, there was a school there. It's a dilapidated building now, but it was that area.
Yeah.
And they had I did a lot of the cemeteries in Greenwood County, up by Cokesbury. One of the cemeteries I did, because I'm looking for Beverley, I still haven't found him. It was another cemetery. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was a Confederate cemetery.
Oh, right.
And we found out there were Black people buried there. And so he went through that cemetery and got all their names, and I added those to Find a Grave. Some of them were related to me. So if you can think, this is a community that lived back then. And there was even another cemetery. I took my research to Greenwood County Courthouse and looked at marriage records, wills, deeds. There are people that I didn't know at the time that I was researching that they're related to me. And so now I have a lot more to do.
I bet, yeah. I quite like the coincidences of when you're researching somewhere and you discover that an ancestor or a close relative back in time has actually lived and been where you are now, or where you have once lived. It's quite a nice feeling from my point of view.
See, my daughter moved up there, and I moved with her.
Yeah.
And then I knew that Beverley was from that area. So I just went out in the community,
right.
And it was wonderful.
It's like a homecoming.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. And I've moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. You wouldn't think I had any relatives here at all, but I found one. His name was Dr. Clarence Chick, and he was born in Newberry, South Carolina, but he worked as an economics teacher at Fayetteville State University. It's just, I love it. I could go I am stuck between two things: helping my members and helping myself.
Do you know much about Beverley's later life?
I know when he died, but I just don't know where he's buried. I'd love to find that.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of makes that original discovery of Beverley on your washing up time dial-up modem even more exciting, because that was your first glimpse of that name and of him with his family.
There's something about having an ancestor who was born in enslavement and then finding where he was buried would bring a little bit of closure to me.
Yeah, you're an experienced researcher. You'll find them.
Yes, but you know what I say when I can't find something? There's somebody that's wanting to be found. So they think that if they can hold me out long enough to find them first. I have so many experiences like that.
That's the spirit. Well, thank you, Robin, for sharing the story of Beverley Vance. But I think it's now time for you to face
the brick wall.
Brick walls are utterly annoying, but those sometimes momentary but seemingly terminal blockages in our path are what makes it all the more satisfying to work on. And occasionally, all it takes is a fresh set of eyes or new ideas to make that breakthrough. Speaking of which, it's time for my guest to share one of their brick walls in the hope that one of you, dear listeners, can help with a research idea or clue to turn those bricks to brick dust. So, Robin, how can we help?
Well, if I could find Matilda Vance.
Okay.
She's been really a hard person to find. Her maiden name is Dunlap. She's married to Beverley Vance, of course, and she's in Abbeville County, South Carolina.
Yep.
Now, that boundary changed to Greenwood County, South Carolina. And I'm looking for her, particularly, I'd like to find her parents. The last place that I saw Matilda was in the 1880 census. And it's hard to tell who they were because the numerator used the initials for every name.
Not helpful.
Now, I've looked everywhere I could. I think, I don't remember, it's been so long ago, I probably should go back with it. I looked through the census itself, going page by page, and I couldn't find her. I tried to find a death record for her, knowing that the county changed its name to Greenwood County. I didn't see that. And so I don't know where she went after Beverley died. I just don't know.
Okay. Can you remember maybe when Beverley died?
1899.
Okay. And she outlives him?
Well, I think that she did, but we never know.
No, I was just wondering whether she does or not.
I think that she lived, but you just never know. Now, there's extended family members that have a death for her up in Spartanburg, but I don't take that because they don't have a source, so I don't even take that.
Very wise. So you last see her for sure in 1880.
Yeah, in the 1880 census.
So in 1880 they have their full names, and that's nice and clear.
Yeah.
When the county changes from Abbeville to Greenwood, I don't know these counties, but does the boundary change as well, or is it just the name?
Yeah, the boundary changed because they split Abbeville into more than one county. But it's interesting because they still lived in around Cokesbury and Hodges, but it was Greenwood. And I think, don't take me exact, I think it was around 1897 that it became Greenwood.
Right. And then just to go back to Matilda herself, you said that her maiden name was Dunlap.
Yes.
How are we spelling that?
Dunlap.
Have you ever seen any variants on that at all?
There's variances, but, well, there's some with OP in it.
Dunlop, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think they're any part of my family.
Well, it sounds like we have a fascinating puzzle there to solve.
You know, my grandfather, he had a hymn book, and it was dedicated to her. So they must have known her.
Wow. That would be lovely to be able to kind of have a sense of her full story, knowing that you've got that hymn book.
Yeah, because I think I've got, this is just speculation now.
Sure.
But I think I've got her mother living a little bit near them. But I don't take that for a fact because, you know, we don't have anything to compare it to.
Okay. Well, what's the best way for listeners to make contact if they think they have a clue or a research idea?
Well, my email I use for that, ROBINFOSTER @genealogyjustask.com.
Of course, listeners can head over to familyhistoriespodcast.com where they can read this episode's show notes and send us a message, or they can just email us at hello@familyhistoriespodcast.com and we'll pass that message along to Robin. Now, my fingers are crossed tightly for this one, and hopefully one of our listeners can help to crack this. That
would be so good.
But in the meantime, it's just possible that I can help you with this, but you'll need to follow me through to the garage.
Okay. Now, where is that?
Oh, well, follow me. Here we are.
Wow, you could have tidied up a bit.
What? No, this is my secret time machine.
A time machine?
Yeah, and it's a serious piece of highly technical equipment.
Does it actually work?
Yeah, it most certainly does, and that's why we're here. I thought you might like a little trip back in time to see if you can solve a brick wall for yourself. You know, you could call round and see if Matilda's in. Sort of history as it happens.
That would be amazing.
Certainly would. Well, if you'd like to take a seat over there, then we can get started.
What's this?
What's what? Oh.
It's a number.
Oh, how'd that get there? No problem. It keeps pinging off. I'll just stick that back on. There we go. So, when and where is best for you to go back to so that you can get the answer you need?
I think I should go back to 1880, Abbeville County, South Carolina.
Oh, nice. Census Day. I'll pop you back to, let's say, 9th of June, 1880. Try not to get enumerated, because it'll make things complicated later. Right, there we go. All set. Oh, before you go, you'll need this temporal beacon. It's like the bus home, except faster. Just press the button on the top, and you'll be back there in a flash.
Right, I'm all set.
Yes, you are. Here we go. Robin R. Foster. Thank you, goodbye, and good luck. Spot on. Oh, for a moment there, I thought this machine was starting to get unreliable. The Family Histories podcast was presented and produced by me, Andrew Martin. My guest was the awesome Robin R. Foster, and if you've enjoyed this episode, then why not leave us a star rating or review? Thank you for listening. Approximately no family historians were harmed in the making of this podcast.